Hi, Irina here. I enhance women on the outside to ignite the inside and help them achieve their dreams and goals. Today's topic is, what is your stress response? What do you do when something goes wrong? The first stress mode that we see when something goes wrong is called the blamer. What does the blamer do? Well, they blame everybody. I have some people in my life that are perpetual blamers. I tend not to get into long conversations with them because I know there's going to be a lot of blaming going on. So when something goes wrong, the blamer always has someone to blame. For example, the government is wrecking the company. The rich people are taking too much money. And so when something is happening in their lives, it's never their fault and they don't take responsibility, but they have someone else to blame. Now, when someone is blaming, what it usually means is they have a better option, but they're not willing to make the change to take that better option. For example, they have an option to make more money so they can compete with the rich people that are destroying the stock market, or they can get financial education to figure out what is going on in the actual stock market, but they're not going to do that, right? They just want to go ahead and blame people. When you catch yourself blaming, I would just tell you, it's a really low energy form and it kind of is like sucking the life out of you. So get out of the blame game as fast as possible and know that any game can shift when a new version of you shows up in it. So what version of you could you be to get that situation to change? So let's say you're working with a team or a client and the only thing that they have is blame. So I might say, hey, let's focus on the solution. If we were to make this problem go away, what options do we have? So shift from blame to solution. Because blaming is such a draining process and you don't actually get anywhere. We can sit and blame our lives and the way the world is going on anyone and anything. You know, our upbringing, our childhood wasn't great, the economy, the war, whatever. But at the end, what I've realized is when I was a child, people were complaining about the exact same thing 4 and 5 decades ago. And some people had really great lives despite the tax system, the wars, the economy, and the government. So getting back into that personal power. But if you're dealing with a blamer, just know that this is a really low energy source. As a leader, we want to slowly shift their focus to what potentially might be the solution. The second way people handle stress is called the placator. And what happens with the placator is that they are just going to try to smooth everything over. When I initially learned about this, I thought that was kind of neat, you know, be a placator, make it all look good and proper. But you know what? People need accurate feedback. And if something is going wrong, placating isn't always the best answer. Yes, if tempers are high and there is a lot of conflict, then placating is a good way to bring down the anger and the stress in the room. If performance needs to change or information is being missed, then placating is not the way to go. So placating is a good stress strategy if emotions are high to bring them down. So when people need to hear the truth, we can't placate. We need to tell them the truth. Placating is a technique that often kids use, right? They suck their thumb. Now, when you can't suck your thumb, what do? We bite our lips. So when you see someone maybe that is biting their lips, you know that they are placating themselves. They're trying to soothe themselves and make themselves feel better. If we are constantly in a placating mode, then it might be time to see how do we manage stress and anxiety. We live in a stressful world and we're always challenged by what's going on. If you're living life and you're not 6 feet under, we have problems. It's up to us on how we handle our problems. So are we a placator when it comes to handling stress? The next way that someone handles stress is the computer. And what they are doing is they need more and more and more information. I tend to do that, where I will just go into overthinking and getting more data. You know, I don't want to make a decision, so let me check with a friend, or let me look up the numbers again, or maybe I need to run it by my accountant, maybe I need to run it by my attorney, and so it's just more and more data, and so you get into that paralysis by analysis. Again, having the adequate amount of data to make a decision is critical. And there's a level of data that we need to make the effective decision, but getting into that thing where we're paralyzed and we need more information, and that, you know, tax deadline is coming and you're just like, should I do that deduction? Shouldn't I do that deduction? And you're waiting to the last minute, right? Procrastinating because you might get that one little piece of information that's going to change everything. That may not be the best way to handle stress. And so many people handle stress in the computer mode. You know why? Because if you delay it long enough and get enough data, eventually you don't make a decision because a decision is made for you, right? The deadline passes, the event is over. In the computer mode, right? The deadline passes, the event's over, someone else makes a decision, they go the other way. Someone else picks the restaurant. We don't have to do anything. So we want to definitely get adequate data, but not paralysis by analysis. The fourth way that people handle stress is distraction. So they are going to distract you from the real issue at hand. Let's just say I'm putting someone's feet to the fire about performance or an event that didn't happen, or they didn't get the report out on time. They might distract by saying it was another employee came and gave them more work, or they might turn around and say that the computer systems are inadequate. The weather was bad. There was too much traffic. So they're gonna kind of shift the focus to something else. You know, they might switch it to everything would work better if your family didn't interfere with all our decisions. So all of a sudden it's down from instead of them doing what they said and needed to do to, hey, your family didn't behave right. This technique is really effective because so many people get taken by the distraction. So that's why they use it, because people believe the distraction and next thing you know, they're falling for the distraction. Again, similar to the blamer, when we're dealing with the distractor, we need to get the focus back to the issue on hand. It wasn't about how someone's family played into it. We want them to take control of their own behavior. So many times this technique is used, especially in politics, right? The politician's doing something wrong and people are closing in and saying, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing wrong? And all of a sudden they're distracting you with some bill that the other party passed, or how the electric company is raising their rates. And all, you know, the conversation, they don't answer the question, right? They keep going with distractions. And I've seen this done effectively on so many, especially like when you have politicians or CEOs that are really well versed in this, they'll be asked questions and they'll just be going off on tangents, so distracting. And that's how they handle stress, is they never deal with the situation on hand. So they play on a level field. And so what they do is they weigh out all the options and level them out. Their emotional response is also on level. So they don't distract, they don't start blaming, they don't start placating, they don't start asking for data that's irrelevant, but they look at the situation and they make a decision. If we are going to do anything worthwhile, it's gonna be stress, right? Because every time we're learning, there's some new kind of stress. If there's no new stress, we're not growing. So as long as we're learning, there's gonna be some kind of stress. And we wanna have at least an awareness of how we handle it, and B, some kind of support system on how we handle it. And that's kind of one of my favorite things, is to provide that community for people that, you know, just having some listening ears or a friend to lean on or a coach makes such a huge difference, that when we're in that stressful situation, we can offshoot and get a little bit of feedback from somebody else or a little bit of support from somebody else. So my name's Rita. If you like this video, definitely click like and click subscribe. And in the comments, let me know what other subjects you'd like covered.